Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Unspoken Truth. As you can see, we're keeping our social distancing and putting on the mask following the restrictions for the coronavirus. Anyway, I'm your host, Montjane in Limpopo, and of course, welcome back again and thank you for tuning into our show. So I'm joined by the most exciting, I think the most inspiring woman that I've ever seen on the sports field. Her name is Montjane, and she is a wheelchair tennis champion. I don't know how you got this, but I really want to get down into it. She is the first black woman who got recognition on an international level when she was the first black South African, get this one, first black South African woman to enter competition and compete at a very high level at Wimbledon. I pronounce it right?
Wimbledon, yeah.
Wimbledon. And she's also one of the African wheelchair tennis players that was able to qualify not just once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times in a major Grand Slam in just 1 year.
Correct.
You are a rounder and I bow. Welcome to my show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I went through your interviews. I checked some of the clips that you put on social media, and I've went down into researching more about you and where you come from and what you've done, and you are so unmatched. How did you get into tennis? But before that, I want to know who's Khothatso.
Khothatso, was born and raised in, Limpopo province, reside in Seshego, I used to reside in Seshego here with my parents, and obviously I'm someone who was born with disability, hence wheelchair tennis. So, I'm from a family of 5, 2 siblings, my mom and dad still there, and a very happy big family.
So you're 3?
Yes.
In total, are you the firstborn?
Yeah, I'm the deputy parent.
By default.
By default.
Not sure if you can imagine the horror.
Someone was born with disability, and obviously my parents opted to take me to a special school when I was still, little. So that's where actually everything started, because, at that school, that's where I was introduced to sport in general. And obviously, how I got into tennis, I was introduced to it when I was in matric. At school, they asked me to go try it out because I was just one of the active learners at school. Who love sports, so they just thought, why not we pick this one and go and represent us. So that's where it all started.
Okay, so you were introduced to tennis when you were in your grade 12.
Yes.
Prior to grade 12, were you
I was in grade 12 already.
Okay, prior to grade 12, were you involved in any sports activities?
Of course, I used to play table tennis. I was part of the athletics team. I was wheelchair basketball. I was playing wheelchair basketball. So that's where they actually picked me, because I used to excel quite a lot with those activities. Obviously table tennis being my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing quite well with all those activities at school. So when tennis came, I don't know why they picked me, but I would like to think because I was just one of the active learners at school who was doing well in sport.
Yeah, you mentioned they picked me, but when I was reading down your history, there is one teacher actually who recognized your potential when it comes to tennis. Do you perhaps remember his name? And
you know how it all started? There was one teacher who was part of the sport committee. That's the one who came to approach me, like, you have to go to this wheelchair tennis thing in Pretoria. And then, but there was another teacher who actually, when I came back from the camp, she was like, I'm going to take over this sport at school to be responsible, as in like a coach or whatever. And she was really pushy, and she was the one who actually made sure that I pitched for all my practices and all that. So she's the one who used to sneak me out of the school, because when you took grade 12, you were not allowed to go to any
Yes,
competitions or
yes.
any camps or whatever. So she's the one who used to actually just like sneak me out of school, making sure that I attend like, you know,
Training.
the camps, and she also sneaked me out to go play my first tournament. You know, so she's actually been behind me and making sure that, you know, I pursue this thing called tennis.
Tennis. So at 12 years, you had to have your left leg amputated.
Yes.
I'm trying to think down. You were born with a disability, right? You still had both your legs at that time.
Not really. One of my leg, it wasn't well developed.
It wasn't well developed.
Yeah, hence
Okay.
they opted for the amputation. The doctors opted for the amputation.
How did you receive the news when they told you that they have to amputate?
I mean, honestly, I was a kid. You know, I was a kid. So for me, it didn't bother me that much. You know, I'm at a school with other kids with disabilities, so for me it wasn't a problem at all. And obviously, when my parents mentioned it's going to help me in the long run, you know, I considered doing what's best for me.
It actually was the best decision for
Yeah,
you.
so I was not bothered at all, to be honest, because of the environment that I was in.
Mm. So you only started playing or being fully active in the wheelchair tennis sport at in grade 12, but you didn't plan to become a tennis player at all. Was it ever your dream to become a wheelchair tennis champion, or you had other dreams prior to that?
Look, tennis is a foreign sport. Tennis, it wasn't there in that area where I was. You know, it was a new thing. I was seeing it for the first time, not even to see it on TV back then. I mean, I would have planned to become, you know, a professional wheelchair tennis player because I didn't know anything about it. But obviously, what happened is they had to actually convince me, you know, to
To
actually
actually be part of this sport?
try this thing out.
Yes.
Yes. So that's how I found myself, you know, like taking it up. But obviously back then, because like I said, I was in matric when I was introduced to it. Having to go to varsity, my first priority obviously was to complete
It was to complete.
my studies. But
Mhm.
I just happened to be able to balance the two when I was at university, be able to play and study at the same
And
time.
study at the same time. So, as the first black woman to compete at Wimbledon, right? What were your outstanding, or what are still your outstanding moments? And what did that chance of you representing your country at that international stage mean for your career in tennis?
You know what? Wimbledon, I didn't even know I was gonna be the first Black South African woman to be there. When the Wimbledon opportunity came, actually, for me it was just like, oh, finally I'm completing my slam calendar because it was the only Grand Slam that I never played. You know?
Oh,
So
okay.
for me, I didn't know it was gonna make me that I'm just gonna be the first one and all that. So for me, I was just happy to complete the slam
Yes.
calendar.
Yeah.
And obviously I was looking forward to my first experience on grass, you know. So those are the things I was thinking about.
This is okay, the next one, and I'm completing, yep.
Yeah, and obviously at that moment Wimbledon could have been my last tournament, considering, you know, what I was going through, you know, lack of sponsorships and all that. So it happened to come at the right time, like it could be my last, so I had to make the best of it. But you know, it
And of
happened
course,
to be.
you broke boundaries by being the first one to actually represent us. And I think being a woman of color was actually the most highlight, because it shows that no matter what happens in life, you actually can be the first in one of the most biggest tournaments that was happening under the wheelchair tennis sport.
Most definitely, I didn't see it coming, but obviously it's a great moment. You know, it gives other fellow South Africans and Africans hope, you know, to keep pursuing their
Definitely.
dreams. You know, it actually does emphasize that thing that dream do
Come true.
become true. So
Yes, they do. When I looked at it, I was like, But then obviously, not when it comes to sport, I don't even think I could play tennis at all. So the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, at some point, he also tweeted about your preparation for the tournament, and he wished you best wishes for it. How was that, receiving a recognition from the head of our country, wishing you best wishes for that? And do you really think that women in general are receiving enough recognition?
Oh, well, you know what? It was, that moment, it was a very passing moment. There was
Yeah.
just a lot going on, but obviously, having to see President wish me the best, yeah, it was one of the greatest moments. But coming to a question, I think a lot of women still need to be given, a lot of, opportunities and be recognized for what they're doing, because I don't think they are there yet. We still see a lot of men in the spotlight. So I just think it's just a work in progress. Hopefully, we'll get there as women and get.
So it's a cool vibe when it comes to the fact that the president tweeted about you when you were that side. Nah, neki frame lo frame ka mongtong. Neki ta ki frame lo it's like Ramaphosa sale are mo nna. Kilo ralo ka sports somewhere else. So were there any excitement over that? I mean, for me, it is an exciting thing, just only to know that he did that for you.
Yeah, of course, you know what. But I don't want the president to wish me the best. I want the president to back my career going forward.
That's what I want to get to. That's exactly what I want to get to.
A tweet on its own is not gonna get me where I really want to get.
Talking
but obviously,
about,
I appreciate him doing that.
the
you know,
support.
Yeah.
Most definitely. However, when you're talking about, you would really wish it was backing up your possibilities of actually continuing and playing your profession. You had challenges when it comes to endorsements and also having financial support to play in this. I mean, the sports on its own is very expensive in terms of equipment. Am I correct?
Definitely.
Yes. So take us through the challenges that you had, and how did you actually get into a place where you now even having Nike supporting you as one of your sponsors?
Yeah, it hasn't been an easy one, but obviously tennis, like you said, it's a very demanding sport financially. Looking at training itself, you need good facility, you need good coach, you need good trainers. So all those people, they come at a certain cost, because they're not giving you their service for free. And on top of that, you still have to go to tournaments, which you still have to enter. You still have to pay for flights, you still have to pay for accommodation, you still have to cover the coach's cost if he's coming, and he still needs to get paid for his time away from.
By the way, when you went for the Wimbledon competition, you had to go alone without your coach.
Yeah, because I was very broke, so one has to go.
So one had to actually take the trip. And that was very challenging, because throughout your career in tennis, you had your coach with you on the field when you were competing.
Most definitely, in big tournaments like Grand Slam, I always had someone with me, because everyone brings their own coach at that level. You cannot be there by yourself, because otherwise you won't have anyone to play with. But obviously, in my case, one has to go, and it has to be a player, because that's the one who needs to compete.
There's the one who needs to compete.
Yeah, so I had to come to that decision on who has to go, because by then, financially we couldn't afford to get two people to Wimbledon, so one had to go.
One had to go. So how did you end up going there?
Obviously, I have friends in the UK.
You got friends in higher places.
I have friends in the UK, so I just had to be straight with them, like, this is what's happening. Do you think there's anyone who can, be there for me for a week, or those couple of days I was there? And they hooked me up with someone, and but prior to that, I was staying at a friend's house, and I was playing with her, in preparations to Wimbledon. So that's how I sorted it out. So my friends in the UK, they helped me to get someone who could be there for me during those couple of days of Wimbledon.
You know what? I think I need to change my friends, because I don't think if I had to go to the UK or anywhere else, I would have friends taking me that far. So it's about time I look into my friend zone side. So you studied a BSc degree in
Recreation and
leisure studies, right? So do you think that it's important for athletes to consider a formal qualification as a backup plan should things don't go right?
I used to think, yeah, it's a good thing to to have, yeah, some sort of a qualification as a backup plan. But then I came to realize that yes, I do have my BSc in that, but spend my entire life or my entire time playing tennis. So when you get together, a work experience, should anything happen, where am I gonna pop up and be like, oh, I've got a degree, give me a job without a work experience? So I used to think it's actually a good thing, but then second thoughts. I have a second thoughts about it.
You have a second thought?
I have a second thought about it, but it's just a matter of it's important to get education. But in the midst of your career, you need to put yourself out there. Try certain things. I just think you shouldn't be more focused on sports on its own, because should anything happen, obviously should you want to go work, you're gonna need that experience. So at some point, I think with the upcoming stars, that's one thing they need to know. They shouldn't be like us, be more focused into the sports and ignore the part of
the business side of it. Actually, I think if most athletes were to take a chance, it should improve themselves on understanding the business side of sports. Because I would like to believe that there's a whole lot of a team behind you as a star. There are people that are running your PR, there are people that are running your financial management side of things, and etc. So it's actually important for athletes to kind of align themselves with understanding how the business side works.
Most definitely. Like when you are under a certain agency, they are able to actually put you out there. For example, as a motivational speaker, they are able to get me, certain gigs, and that it comes with incentives. Then you know how to,
You should balance it and manage
exactly. So if they are able to actually sell you out there, then you can become a better brand. But if you don't have anyone managing you, then it becomes a problem, because that's what actually we lack in this country. Most athletes being represented by certain, agencies. Most athletes are just doing their own thing, So, but if we can get somewhere there where athletes are represented, then they will be able to get a guidance in terms of, how to maneuver around the whole thing and branch out beyond just being athletes.
Just being on the field.
Yeah.
I'm glad unmatched, right? So I got my home girl in, guys. Sipedi said one would check as a child, right? How did your family, your parents, play a role in you becoming this wheelchair champion, tennis champion, and also your community? How they receive you? How are you interacting with them? What's your relationship like with where you're coming from?
Truth is, this sport, as much as I'm saying it's foreign to me, it was foreign to my parents also. When I told them about tennis, they were just like, as long as we're tabile. As long as we're tabile, So the only thing that I've been, not even the only thing, one thing they've always been doing best for me, and it's just being supportive, making sure that I'm happy, So there was never a point whereby you
Utoba lipholisa wena awuna boya awuna tennis uyidia mystery.
So asanga ba dira so asanga ba ntsallela gore ke ska ba nthukinya go ba yona.
That's
So
very nice.
the most important thing is that they've always been supportive, and even today for them it's like, wow, we just never saw this coming.
They're proud of the
Very
product
proud.
that you've become. That's very, very nice. And talking about the foreign part of this sports to us, I mean, not to be honest, the whole of Zanin, Obulobedu side, Bulobedu is so huge. It's got the south and the north. Our sports field is tennis.
Soccer.
Kore ile tennis we have get like a soccer. I own, you know, we're still having kids playing on the dusty roads and etc. So you coming out and being the first champion, you know, in the tennis field, also on a wheelchair, it's like superb. It's something that is never spoken of. It's something that is unmatched in so many levels. And I will never even ask you how do you feel about it, but I want to come down to you currently a role model and you're having a whole lot of girls looking up to you from where you're coming from in your rural area down into the urban side. We're looking at you like you are representing us in so many ways. What's your message to one girl that is sitting at home and she's like, I would love to be in a certain sport, but I've got a certain disability and I'm not even sure if I can do it.
I think the main thing is just not letting your background, to define you, So if you are a driven person, you should always, go for what you believe in, regardless of where you're coming from. You will think about that later if you made it. Like, I'm from there and now I'm here, But in the meantime, the most important thing, don't let your background defines you.
Well,
you are not your background.
Yeah, you're definitely an example of that. You have done so much in the tennis field. What's next? Is there next? Or like you are a champion. Is there any other level? What more can you do?
What's next? I don't know. I take it
one day as it comes.
Yeah, true. I was gonna say that.
But what are your further aspirations when it comes to your career?
Yeah, obviously I've got NGO running, / foundation, where we're working on, putting out facilities out there in the rural areas as we're talking about, because I think that's where their talent is. So they're
of course, I mean, look at you.
The development side of the sport, I think that's my passion. So if we are able to do things like that and run programs together with my team, I think that's something that will make me happy. But I think that's something that I'm on to it next,
Yeah.
So
impacting lives, changing the situations, and making sure that you empower the youth to be more confident when it comes to themselves and understanding that they are skilled enough to go and even play in other urban sides.
Yeah, most definitely. And obviously for kids in rural areas, not to think that things like this, they end up in the cities. They can even happen where they are, they just need to be given,
Platform any chance.
Yeah.
Somebody take a chance on them, just like somebody also recommended you for a chance.
most definitely.
You know what, this takes us down into these questions that I want to ask you. We want to get to know Khotatso deeper and deeper, and we want to know so I'm going to ask you these few questions,
okay,
and you just have to answer me within 10 seconds. So, the first one that I'm going to ask you, if you were not doing tennis, between these two sports, rugby or soccer?
No, soccer.
You would go for soccer?
I'll go for soccer.
Why?
Rugby, it's tough.
Is it as tough as tennis?
I mean, people get injured, people push each other around, so I'm not ready for the pain.
Okay. Your favorite meal? If you had to choose bread or pap? Give me a high five. I would go for pap any day. And would you stay indoors or outdoors?
Indoors.
Indoors, why? Not just because of the corona, but just really.
No. I've been social distancing even before corona. I don't know.
You're an introvert.
Type of a thing. I'm socially awkward, so I don't know how to socialize. But anyway, I enjoy my space.
You enjoy.
I have no problem with other people. I just enjoy my space.
Enjoy being in your own space. Yes. All right. And your favorite color?
Blue.
Why blue?
I don't know. Just the color that makes me happy.
And lastly, what's the best country that you've ever visited, and what was the most exciting thing about it?
I love France. I love Paris as a city. I think it's beautiful. I think when you are on top of the Eiffel Tower and you're looking at the entire city, you would think it's art. how it's shaped, you know.
I've never been there, so I'm just gonna nod.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
say, okay, all right.
Next time, if you decide to go to Paris, and make sure you see the entire city.
The entire city. I'm definitely gonna go.
You can
to
see what I'm
Paris.
talking about. And the food, also the bread is.
The bread is not,
you know, the
but
bread
still
is-
not the best. But it's not. It's still not the one better than Papaya Bolimbo.
No. It doesn't. The bread doesn't even come close to pap. 'Cause looking at what I eat in other countries,
Yes.
I would say the bread in France.
In France, it's the best.
is the best.
That's lovely. Hotazo, thank you so much that you've made time to be with me today. I appreciate you being here. And if there was anything that you'd like to change in the sports field for women, what would that be?
You know, put more women on the leadership roles. You know.
Put women in the leadership.
Yeah,
role.
because the men have been running this show for quite a long time, and I don't really think they understand women. So women, if they are in charge, they have a broader minds. They can do for both.
Well, nobody knows us as women than us women, right?
Thank you.
So thank you very much, Hotazo. And this is actually a token of appreciation from me to you, to say Kelabra, that you've made time to be here. And thank you that you're representing not just my province, but the country as a whole. Thank you that you've broken boundaries. Thank you that you're unmatched. Thank you that you're setting standards that when other young kids look at you, they'll be like, I can be that because she became one. So for that, I just want to say thank you and good luck, and may your tennis career flourish further than it is right now.
Thank you so much.
This is for you.
What's in here?
Maybe money to go to France.
Oh.
Family, thank you so much for tuning in with us today. This is the Unspoken Truth. I was joined by the best of the best, and we are gonna see you very soon in our next episode. I am because you are. Keep your social distance, put on your mask, sanitize. I love you. Bye.
Mengele, Otisari Sadele, Spadele, Starta Kedele, Mengele.